ever has.
Yeah.
Congrats on the best places to work designation. That's kind of cool.
I think we are still short one of the quorum.
You know, treat your people.
For everything at our company.
Well, this is nowhere near a quorum.
We do not have a quorum.
We don't have a quorum yet. We are
believe,
waiting for one.
I believe we have someone that's here that will be here momentarily.
So-
That will give us the quorum, I believe, as per our discussion of 8, I believe. I think we have one person who's on the premises that will be here momentarily.
Okay.
I believe, to say that diplomatically.
John Ply will not be able to attend the meeting, and I'll be chairing the meeting instead of him. We'll start the meeting with introductions.
Mark Soyland, District 2.
Tom Banning, District 3.
Eris Weaver, Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition.
Brian Lane, representing District 4.
Kelly McNerney, League of Women Voters.
Riggs Lacus, Sonoma County Wine Growers.
Back there.
LeConte,
Jared
Air
Hall.
Transit Advisory Committee.
Hi, I'm Jared Hall, Transit Manager at Petaluma Transit.
Dana Trey, SCTCA.
Rachel Eid with Santa Rosa City Bus.
Hunter McLaughlin, Sonoma County Public Infrastructure. Sorry.
I'm Ross Clendenin, SCTCA.
Don Gooch, SCTCA, and now we can go to the people online.
And on the screen,
I'm Tanya Nara with SCTCA.
okay. Anybody else?
I am Trish Pisani with Sonoma County Public Infrastructure.
Okay. Okay, I think that's enough. We will, we have a quorum. And we'll start with the public comments. Any public comments? I see none. We'll move to the presentation of the transit agencies, and because we have a busy agenda, we'll leave the questions until the end of the 3 presentations. We have overall about 30 minutes, so each presenter, would you please limit your presentation to about 7-8 minutes, and we'll start with I believe the city of Petaluma.
Oh, can we do the admin items? I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped.
No problem.
Can we leave it after this item? You know,
However you want to do it.
yeah, we already started with the transit, and
Sure.
we can
For
talk
public
about
comment,
it
or,
later.
who are you representing today?
I got the packet.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
If Carrie is ready, I'll just go ahead and introduce the item. All right, so we will have kind of 4 sections of the presentation. We'll have a presentation starting with Rachel Eid from Santa Rosa City Bus, and then Stephen Schmitz from Sonoma County Transit, and then followed by Jared Hall from Petaluma Transit, and then I will give a brief presentation on the transit integration work, and then we could go into Q&A.
But can you limit each presentation to 5 minutes if this is the case? Because we'll leave about 10 minutes for questions.
That is a plan.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Great, I have my marching orders, 5 minutes. Good to see you all. Glad to be here. Rachel Eid, Transit Manager for the City of Santa Rosa and Santa Rosa City Bus. Feels like I was just here, but that was a whole year ago. So I'll jump right in. Next slide, please. Next slide. Keep things moving. So just a quick overview of City Bus for those of you who may not be aware. We operate 14 fixed route transit routes within the city of Santa Rosa. On our main corridors, we're operating every 15 minutes, but most of our routes operate every 30 minutes, with some operating every 60 minutes in lower demand areas. We operated 73,000 service hours in fiscal 25. We also have a deviated fixed route service that has a flexible component within the Oakmont community through a partnership with the Oakmont Village Association that's been in place for many years. We also operate Santa Rosa Paratransit within the city of Santa Rosa and in some areas outside the city as well through our one-seat ride program in collaboration with Sonoma County Transit. We operate the Santa Rosa Transit Mall Regional Hub. It's served by City Bus, Sonoma County Transit, Golden Gate Transit, and Mendocino Transit. And from the Transit Mall, we're providing connections to SMART and the Amtrak Thruway Bus. There are about 3,000 bus trips operating out of the Transit Mall each week among all those operators. And currently, City Bus is about 80% of our pre-COVID service hours and about 80% of our pre-COVID ridership, which is actually pretty good. The fact that we have 80% of our ridership rebounding to meet about 80% of our service level is a win, but that's not where we want to end up ultimately, obviously. Next slide, please. Some recent developments since we were here. Last year, we talked about our upcoming Transit Mall roadbed rehab project, which we completed last November. We also took that opportunity to refresh the Transit Mall. I just want to note this was funded by a quick strike grant that was recommended by SCTCA to MTC. So we're really grateful for those funds. It was about a $1.5 million project. So incredibly helpful to have those funds to get that project done. It'd been about 30 years since we'd refreshed the roadbed and it was starting to fall apart. Transit Mall is also serving as a pilot site for the regional mapping and wayfinding program. Dana's going to touch on that a little later, and given time, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I just want to highlight that we were proud that Santa Rosa was chosen of 2 prototype sites in the entire 9-county Bay Area. Have a few images to show you about that wayfinding program that hopefully will be rolled out throughout the whole 9-county Bay Area. We're currently leasing buses from Golden Gate Transit through an innovative partnership that's helping us meet our service reliably, given some of the issues we've had with fleet related to the pandemic, as well as the Proterra bankruptcy. That's a much longer topic than I have time to touch on now, but we're grateful to have that partnership with Golden Gate Transit. And finally, a recent development we're really excited about is our city council a few months ago extended our fare free program for youth through fiscal 2030, just recognizing the success of that program. Next slide. Just have a few images of the roadbed project. I'll keep it moving, but we were able to refresh our facility as well as add the red paint at the entrances to the Transit Mall to really designate that space as a transit-only area. Very successful project working with local contractors. Next slide, please. And some images of the wayfinding program, as well as the festive group at our wayfinding launch. This was, again, a really big deal for Santa Rosa and Sonoma County to be showcased in this regional program. And the signage has been a big success. A lot of really good feedback from riders about how the signage program makes it much easier to transfer among routes, to find your way through the transit center and connect not only within the Transit Mall, but also to the downtown SMART station, recognizing we have that challenge of the gap between the Transit Mall location and the SMART station. Next slide. I pulled this from our city council presentation. I just wanted to highlight this because I think it tells a really important story that, since we initiated the Fare Free program for youth in 2021, we've had a 125% increase in youth ridership on Santa Rosa City Bus. We saw an immediate rebound in ridership to our pre-COVID ridership level among youth, and it's continued to grow since then. And youth now make up about 1/3 of City Bus's ridership. So that program has been fantastic, and we're grateful that the council has enabled us to extend it for another 5 years. Want to highlight that Go Sonoma funds are key to that. About half the funding to reimburse those lost fare revenues is coming from Go Sonoma, as well as the state low carbon transit operations program. And those funds are also distributed through the Sonoma County coordinated claim through SCTCA. So SCTCA has a huge role in supporting that program. Next slide. Upcoming and ongoing projects. We are currently in design for the phase 2 of our electric bus charging infrastructure. This will implement about 1.5 megawatts of additional charging capacity, 14 dispensers, and that will support the additional 12 buses we have on order, 12 electric buses, and another 6 electric buses we have funded, meaning that most of our fleet will actually be supported between our phase 1 and our phase 2 infrastructure. when that project is complete. As I mentioned, we have 12 electric buses arriving within the next several months. We also have some funding through for some passenger amenity upgrades at our hubs and major corridors. And I also want to highlight that the RM3 Regional Major 3 funds that we have for that work were also approved by SCTCA. So we're grateful for those funds as well. And then real quickly, but importantly, I want to touch on the mascots local service planning work we're embarking on. I know you all have received a detailed presentation on mascots. That project on the regional level continues to move through the public process towards adoption and working through comments that have been received. We are now turning our attention towards how we as a local service need to make some changes to better support connectivity to the regional network, as well as better integrate with our local partners such as Sonoma County Transit. And that's work we'll coordinate with Sonoma County Transit's Treats Planning Initiative, which you're going to hear a little bit more about in the next presentation. Just touch on ridership real quick. We completed fiscal 25 with just over 1.5 million passenger trips, which was a 6% year-over-year increase. Paratransit saw about a 4% year-over-year increase. I provided this chart, and it shows some interesting things. You know, you see, it's probably a little hard to read, but every year since the pandemic, we are recovering ridership and growing ridership. Interesting trend in fiscal 25. We started the year very strong in terms of the increase of year-over-year ridership, but about mid-year, that tapered off a bit, and we basically held steady. That's a trend that has been seen in other parts of the Bay Area as well, so something we're keeping an eye on. This is highly speculative, but I tend to think that there might be some impact of reduced trips due to concerns about immigration enforcement. That is speculative at this point. That could be one factor, but something that we're keeping an eye on. But ridership does continue to recover over the pandemic, or at least hold steady, which is great news. Next slide. And in terms of fares, we completed fiscal 25 with $1.4 million in fare revenue. That's about 9% of our fixed route operating budget. We continue to offer unlimited pass programs for youth, SRJC students, veterans, paratransit registrants, and City of Santa Rosa and County of Sonoma employees, and that's through a reciprocal partnership with the County of Sonoma. I just want to highlight one other project we'll be launching probably within the coming year is taking a closer look at our fare policy, recognizing that as we work to better integrate with other operators, the service integration is really key, but from the rider perspective, until we integrate the fare policy and structure, that's a real barrier to riders being able to use the systems as efficiently and effectively as possible. We'll also be looking at opportunities to move more to a cash and clipper-based system and maybe over time reduce our reliance on the other pass products. That's the way the industry is going, but it will take some time here in Sonoma County. Last slide, I think. Measure M financials. So in fiscal 25, we received a little over $1 million in Measure M funds. That was it's an 8.7 decrease from fiscal 24. You all know this. We're all getting hit hard. Anything that's funded with sales tax is having to absorb some pretty significant decreases right now. And that goes for Measure M, as well as our state TDA funds that fund the majority of our operations. So it is a challenging fiscal environment for transit operating for sure right now. That said, Measure M accounted for 6.4% of our operating budget and continues to play a really essential role both on the fixed route and the paratransit operating budgets. So we appreciate it very much. And I know I just slammed through that presentation per the vice chair's request. And I believe we're going to save questions to the end. So should I turn it over to the next?
We'll turn it over.
presenter?
Thank you, Rasha.
Great, Stephen.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Stephen Schmitz, Transit Specialist with Sonoma County Transit. And start off with our current service and network. Right now, we have 19 fixed routes on weekdays, including school troopers in Roanoke Park and Cotati. Those are 10, 12, and 14. On Saturday, we have reduced service, 14 fixed routes. And then on Sunday, we just stick to our north, south, east, west major routes, 5 fixed routes. In fiscal year 26, we're planning on operating up to 115,000 total fixed route hours for bus and then 48,000 for paratransit. Recent developments, we recently began offering fare free for eligible ADA paratransit riders, and that's to match where we also provide fixed route free service. We also provide free service for college students and veterans. And then soon we're going to be receiving a couple more 35-foot ride electric buses, and they'll be delivered next month. That'll bring our electric powered fleet to about 11 buses. In next year, it says November, I think, on the slide, but I just recently learned that we'll probably bump that up to summer delivery for more Gillig 40-foot EV buses, our first 40-foot electric vehicles in the fleet, and that'll bring our total electric powered fleet to 50%. In preparation for those buses, we've been expanding our bus yard charging facility, and later this year, we're planning on having a total of 19 electric bus charging posts that can charge up to 38 buses overnight. So we would swap the first 19 for a second 19, and it's about a 4-hour charge time. The project is about $6 million, and it's with state and local TDA funding. We also are pretty unique in that we're going to have a very large natural gas generator in case power goes out for any type of emergency. We can still fuel our buses. We have a mix of electric and natural gas fleet buses, so we could still fuel those during an emergency. And then on the paratransit side, we just recently took delivery of 4 new mini buses that will continue to provide service for paratransit. Our ridership continues to go up since pre-COVID. Last fiscal year, we totaled just over 800,000, and that was an 8.6% increase over fiscal year 24. During the same time period, our ADA paratransit trips went up almost 12%, close to 47,500. It's projected that by next year, we'll go up another 50,000, so ending the year with 850,000 trips, which is it's getting close to 100% pre-COVID. We were about 900,000 pre-COVID, so we're nearing that mark. Our fares, we continue to provide youth fare-free trips, and also all of our local shuttle services are fare-free, and that includes the city of Sebastopol, Windsor, Healdsburg, Cloverdale, Sonoma, Roanoke Park, Cotati, and the Lower Russian River areas. Again, we also provide fare-free ADA paratransit service in those areas, as well as for veterans and college students. For the fiscal year 25 Measure M financials, just about 1.5 million we received in Measure M funds last fiscal year, and they were used for fixed route and ADA paratransit service. It was a decrease of about 9%, unfortunately, due to decline in taxable spending. In fiscal year 25, it equaled about 8% of our fixed route and paratransit operating budgets. We just began work on a transit enhancement study for Sonoma County Transit called the Transit Enhancement and Active Transportation Study, otherwise known as TREATS. And the 18-month study will invite stakeholders to assess transit conditions and engage in a collaborative regional transit planning. And we hope the result will be a strategic plan to enhance our transit service and then also improve the county's active transportation infrastructure and provide better connections to regional transit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again, I'm Jared Hall, Transit Manager of Petaluma Transit. Thanks again for having us. We always love coming back and giving this update every year. So in terms of Petaluma Transit, as an overview, we have 6 regular fixed bus routes, and then we have 5 school trippers that we run throughout the city. We operate fully within the city of Petaluma, 12 square miles, and we provide paratransit service for mobility assistance. We have our fixed route system. We have our new Lumigo microtransit service that started in September of 2024. And we contract out our operations for both paratransit, fixed route, and microtransit with a company called MV Transportation. Next slide. So you can kind of see an overview there of the different routes that go throughout Petaluma on the service map. Next slide. So we had a big year over the prior 12 months and several new things coming online. Most notably, we had our LumaGo service, which is a brand new white label microtransit service. It's something where we wanted to bring a lot of new riders into the fold who had maybe never rode our system, show them a new service type, and everything was custom done with a lot of community involvements. So everything from the look of the vehicle to the branding to the name was all customized, but people still know it's operated by Petaluma Transit, kind of a brand that they trust. We also are undergoing a transition with our fleet. So we received our first ever battery electric zero emission buses in July, just a few months back. And we're starting our facility construction project, breaking ground on October 1st, hopefully completed by the end of the calendar year. That'll let us charge up to 10 vehicles with that first project, with the phase 2 electrification occurring a couple years later. We started a new transit operation contract. It's an 8-year contract with MV Transportation because our prior one was expiring. That's a major undertaking. And we're very happy to launch 15-minute headways on 2 of our major corridors, North McDowell Boulevard, which is Route 2, and then Washington Street, which is Route 11. That started in June 2025 to try to be in compliance with regional goals in the transit-oriented communities. Our Fare Free program that started in July 2024 continues, and so that's free throughout the city on all of our services for all rider types. And then we added bus stop improvements at 10 different locations, including new shelters and benches. So in terms of our ridership, you can see the charts there, and similar to the other agencies, we've had an increasing trend since the COVID period. For FY25, we had a little over 300,000 trips on our fixed route system, about a 10.5% increase. And then our paratransit, we had about a 22.7% increase, or a little over 11,000 trips on that system. Overall, we've continued to see an increase since we first implemented our free K-12 program starting in 2024 through today. And of course, we started the overall Fare Free system in July of 2024. Next slide. So in terms of the Measure M funding that we're receiving, we received $383,000 approximately in FY25. That also is a decrease for us of about 5.5%. And that makes up Measure M about 10% of our total overall operating budget. So also kind of a fiscal crunch for our agencies. You've heard from the other ones as well. In terms of future improvements, as I mentioned, the facility electrification, hopefully have the construction phase done by December of this year. Overall, we have a goal of trying to have a zero emission fleet by 2030, even more aggressive than the state goal of having that by 2040 through CARB. But of course, there's a lot of moving pieces these days on the funding side with federal grants, things along those lines, and we're always kind of readjusting. Cover the facility electrification, operations. We just started the 15-minute headways on routes 2 and 11. We're going back to our council in October of this year, so a couple weeks from now, to talk about the future of LumaGo and what that looks like. We would love to expand that service as possible, but we don't currently have funding to really add a second zone and expanded zone. So doing so would require additional funding. We know there's demand in the community for it, but of course, these are fairly difficult times to be doing that. And we're working on a new transit website similar to the other agencies that'll all have a similar look. And I think Dana talks about it a bit more as well. Next slide. So in terms of the uses that we've had for the Measure M funds leading into Go Sonoma, we're contributing the funding towards our Fare Free program. We did have a Sonoma County Climate Resiliency Grant that's now sunset as of June of this year, so that's expended. But the 2% funding from Go Sonoma for Fare Free programs helps to cover some of our Fare Free costs. Petaluma City Council was also generous enough to step in and provide general funding to cover the rest of that program. And we're only the second transit agency in the state that's Fare Free overall and the first in the Bay Area. So we're really excited about that. Continuing our electrification, again, doing that second phase project around FY27 to be zero emission by 2030. We have 2 grants that we received from cycle 1 of the SCTCA funding. One of those was for our facility electrification. That was RM3, Regional Measure 3 funding that contributed towards that. And then we had a second grant that also provides expanded transit such as that 15-minute service on Washington and on North McDowell that was provided by another transit expansion grant that we received from SCTCA. Next slide. So you can see on this chart some of the service expansion plans that we've had, and most of these have really been implemented already. The one that I would say we would still like to do is the Lumigo expansion, but of course that would require additional funding that we have to identify. We did also add back some school trippers that were canceled during the COVID period. Those were added back as well over the past year. And that completes the presentation for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next presentation.
All right, before I jump into transit integration, I just wanted to mention that as we're in this transition from the Measure M to the Go-Sonoma Act, Measure M dedicated 10% to transit, and Go-Sonoma is dedicating 18% to transit operations, and then in addition to the 2% for fare-free programs. So the transit operators will be receiving those first Go-Sonoma Act payments this fall, and that's very exciting and helps the transit operators, especially with the overall financial picture right now. So in terms of transit integration, we have, thank you very much. The work we're doing, that kind of falls under these 4 buckets, and I will just highlight a few of them in these slides. But I also wanted to mention that the mascots planning has been a huge lift over this last year for all of the 9 agencies involved in it. To really develop a plan that's implementable and fundable in the near term is a huge lift. The transit agencies also collaborated on 3 joint applications for the SCTCA funding program, Cycle 2, for joint projects that really move forward the integration work. And we're also working on scoping the next phase of transit integration planning work. Next slide. So mascots was presented to you all this summer, I think at the June meeting. And so I just want to give you a brief idea of kind of where everything is in the progress. So the plan was introduced to boards and committees this summer to kick off the public engagement process, which consisted of 4 open houses, 2 webinars, and several pop-up events, and some additional stakeholder meetings as needed. There was a survey that yielded over 700 responses, and feedback from the public engagement is now being reviewed to be considered for plan revisions. And a revised plan will be going to the Golden Gate Transit, Marin Transit, and Smart Boards in October, with the plans to implement in the spring. Throughout the mascots process, all 9 agencies have been heavily involved in gathering data, vetting recommendations, and working diligently toward developing and agreeing upon a plan to fund mascots. An additional piece that was not central to the mascots presentation, but I think is really important to mention, and it's been a big effort to make sure it happens, is maintaining the inter-county paratransit service that exists today. With the removal of Golden Gate Transit 101 service in Sonoma County, none of the transit agencies will have an obligation under the ADA to operate inter-county paratransit. But the mascots agencies were committed to maintaining this service and have figured out a mechanism for all operators to contribute to funding it to make it possible to continue the service through Marin Access that exists today. Next slide. So this illustrates the changes proposed in mascots to the Golden Gate service in Sonoma County. So essentially truncating the Route 101, which is the all-day hourly service in Novato, and then consolidating the 3 commuter routes into one and adding some additional runs as well. There have been some comments received about maintaining the Pioneer Industrial Park and Ride stop, which was originally proposed to not be in there. So that is being considered right now is possibly maintaining that. Next slide. So website integration, I think that both Rachel and Jared mentioned this. We've been working toward having consistent designs for the websites for all three transit operators. Last year, we completed the website for Santa Rosa City Bus, and there was collaboration in the design between all of the transit operators. And now that design is being implemented on the Sonoma County Transit and Petaluma Transit websites. We are also working on a regional landing page that where you can access all three websites and actually link to some of the regional transit operators as well. So we'll have like an interactive map that you can go to first and then launch off into each transit agency's website. We're expecting to have all of this website work done by the end of this calendar year. Next slide. Rachel also mentioned the regional mapping and wayfinding project. The prototypes are up at the downtown Santa Rosa Transit Mall, as well as the downtown Santa Rosa Smart Station, with some pedestrian wayfinding to route people and guide people between the two locations. These prototypes were put out to develop regional standards, and that will be the next step, is to implement pilot projects along several transit corridors, including 2 major transit corridors in Sonoma County, and implementing the kind of regional design for the bus flags, signs, and maps. There is interest in expanding that countywide, and that was one of the applications that the transit operators put forward to the funding Cycle 2 program. Next slide. Here are some additional images of the mapping and wayfinding prototypes that are out there right now. Some more standard, easier to read, kind of focusing more on the type of service, the location and the route, and de-emphasizing who is operating. Next slide. With that, I will turn it back to the chair for Q&A,
you.
and I'll just bring a microphone back here to pass it to whichever operator can most appropriately answer the questions.
Okay, we have few minutes for questions. Any questions to?
So thank you for that. That was wonderful. First, I want to thank Sonoma County Transit. I requested a bench at Sonoma on Broadway at MacArthur, and you put it in, so thank you. And it's being used by the high school kids a lot, so thank you. My question is, I'm in Sonoma, and we have a lot of connection to Napa and to Petaluma. We used to have a bus that would connect the two. Are we going to see something like that soon in the revised plan? Because we have a lot of employees that go back and forth.
That's something that we're going to look at during the TREAT study. So we're going to look at the entire system, including connections to other counties. So, yeah.
I have one more. I can go to Eris or I can come back.
Very quick, please.
This is a general question. We have 3 different bus companies in this county. I think Santa Clara, Marin, everyone else seems to have one bus agency. I'm sure there's a reason for that, but it would be interesting to find out why that is and if there's any advantages to it or not.
Thank you.
One's the question, the other, I'm not, maybe they're both questions, and one has a little bit of a comment built into it. So the recent transit mall update, this would be for Rachel. I haven't had a chance to go in there because I haven't needed to use a bus since then, but it doesn't look like, so it looks like all the changes were just the asphalt on the road. Were there changes in things for my gripe was always getting out of the weather waiting there. Was any changes been made in that?
There were no changes as part of that project to the shelter, but we did do a facility-wide refresh of all the passenger facilities. So you're not going to see like more shelter than was there before. So I appreciate the comment. With the RM3 funds, as well as the ASIC funds that I briefly referenced in my project, that would give us an opportunity to do more additional, and make additional changes to the passenger amenities. So that comment or any others you have about the transit mall facility is very welcome as we plan that project. Thanks.
And then my other sort of comment is around the mascots and the getting rid of Golden Gate 101. Who or what is going to replace that? Because I know for me, so much depends on which direction you go, and working here and living south. if I missed the last train, there was always a Golden Gate that ran later, so. And on weekends, the 101 ran more frequently than the train does. So will those gaps be filled in this whole scenario? I'm hoping.
So I'll take a crack and would be happy to hand off the microphone to anyone else. But, you know, certainly the idea is that Golden Gate 101 service and SMART really do duplicate each other in a number of ways, maybe not in all ways. So the plan includes an expansion of SMART operating hours later into the evening, improvement of SMART services on weekends, additional trips, to better mimic the level of availability of the 101 service. The major gap will be late night. So people who might be trying to, you know, late in the evening, leave San Francisco and come to Sonoma County. So that's something that there's been some public feedback about, and there's currently a lot of work going on to evaluate if there's any opportunities there. But overall, the goal is to really have SMART be that primary spine. And just to be clear, the Golden Gate commuter services will continue to run the 172, for example. And the last thing I'll just say, which it might have just popped out of my mind. Oh, I think I just wanted to highlight that one thing that's critically important, I think, for the three of us is then how do we feed the SMART corridor more effectively, right? So that's a lot of what Stephen's going to be working on, that we're going to be working on, as well as Jared over the next few months.
Just to add on to that late night service,
Yeah.
is there's a real discrepancy between northbound and southbound.
Correct,
Right?
yeah.
You can get
Mhm.
northbound much later in the evening than you can southbound.
On the
So
train,
even
yeah.
getting home from a late work meeting southbound is hard, whereas I can get, you know, go
Yeah.
northbound much later.
And does anyone know if I don't remember when the last north or southbound train trips will be in the mascots plan off the top of my head, but I think that would be maybe good information we could provide to the committee. It is a substantial improvement, but it definitely will not cover all 101 late night trips.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Dana anticipated my question, so thank you for explaining the Go Sonoma funding coming online. I'm looking forward to that making a real difference in your ridership numbers. I noticed that Jared seemingly counterintuitively reported being more dependent on Measure M funds, which have gone down. Sales tax has gone down, and yet ridership is, I think, is up by the greatest percentage. And I think that's probably free fares impact. And I'm just curious if that impulse or my intuition about that is correct.
Yes, that would be my assessment of it. I think that's the biggest reason why we have the increase in ridership. The biggest piece for us is when we did the K through 12 free program, because for Petaluma Transit, over 60% of our riders are K through 16. So that was the biggest ridership leap. And then when we went from there to free system overall, we did another leap overall. But for all the agencies, you know, we don't have the highest fare box recovery in the ratio. For Petaluma Transit, it was about 8% when we were collecting fares. So the majority of the operating funds were not coming from fares overall. So actually, it's one of the most cost-effective ways for us to increase our ridership by doing that fare-free program.
Exactly. Good. So good local case study of that principle in action. Quickly, if I can also ask if there's any plans on the horizon for automation pilots, like what they're doing in Contra Costa. Are you familiar with that at all?
I am familiar with it. I followed it a little bit. We don't have anything imminently available. It is something on the radar that we're looking at as our various studies, but no impending pilot programs for any of us I'm aware of.
That's fine. Just keep looking at it because it's going to be producing some preliminary results soon. And Tim reminds me about the bench at my bus stop, which was at the across the street. Well, it's actually right in front of Homeless Action Sonoma, the little micro cottages there. And there was a bench there right at the Agua Caliente Creek Bridge, and it was taken out. And I asked the driver why, and her speculation was, well, maybe they took it out because people were sitting on it, but they weren't using the bus, which struck me as strange. Maybe we need two benches.
Rather than no.
Not no benches, which is my stop. So it's kind of sweet. You know, it's close to my heart there.
I appreciate that feedback.
First, introduce yourself, please.
Yes, David Harris from Sonoma County Transportation Land Use Coalition. this seat was previously occupied by Jake McKenzie. But I have a question that came up in our meeting last week was for Sonoma County Transit, how the opening of the Windsor Smart Station has affected ridership in the Sonoma County Transit, and in particular Route 60, of course, the other two, 62, and
We have seen increased ridership on Route 16 transferring to Smart at that station. We anticipate the same thing to happen when they get up to Healdsburg. So we're keeping a close eye on that. And as we embark on our study, we're also going to see where we need to make tweaks and improve those connections.
so it is providing basically enhanced service to Cloverdale.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I note also, though, that we were looking at both what is online at the agency's website, and actually Google Maps is getting pretty good at showing you where the stops are in tracking. I haven't looked at it enough, but to make a judgment, but we were finding some discrepancy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We are over time, you know, but I'll allow one more question if anybody has a question back on the screen. Do you see anybody?
Just gonna say, we had one question in the chat from Gina Erickson, just concerns about electric buses and fire danger. Just wanted to see if that was addressed. So just passing that along from the chat. That's a public comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I think I would like to thank you for the presentation and keep the good work. Yeah. Thank you.
Carol Taylor.
Oh, hi. Yes, from the city of Sonoma to Petaluma, I haven't heard much about how we in Sonoma are going to get to SMART. And for years, the county has had us ride up to Santa Rosa to ride back down to Petaluma when we needed to catch buses going further south, or just getting to Petaluma. Yes, there is a SMART train in Santa Rosa. So what is the plan for people in Sonoma to reach SMART?
The 44,
Just 40.
40?
Yeah, just briefly.
I think it's
40. And that'll be increased?
I'm sorry, I had a little bit of trouble hearing exactly what you were saying, but I think you're saying what is the plans for the connection from City of Sonoma over to Petaluma to connect to SMART? Is that right?
Uh-huh. Yes.
So we've got an existing route right now. It's limited to weekday service. As part of the TREAT study that we're embarking on, we're going to look at expanding that potentially during weekends as well. So we're going to be looking at that connection.
Thank you again. I think we are done here. Thank you. You know, I skipped the administrative items. We'll go to item 3.1, the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we just have luckily one batch of meeting minutes to present this time. So bringing those for approval, and then I have a discussion item that was in the packet related to name and committee makeup.
We'll start with the minutes. Do I see any motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion or comments?
These were from the August 25th meeting, and I will say that I endeavored to update all of the attendance since I rewatched a lot of videos anyway.
Okay, I see no questions. Let us vote. Who in favor of approving the minute? Any opposing to the minutes? Abstentions? I see one abstention.
One abstention over here.
And another one over there.
And two.
3 abstentions.
Minutes approved. We'll move to the following item.
Excellent. So I'd like to bring you two items for discussion, and I will be brief as time is of the essence. So essentially, we want to generate some discussion on these two items, and then we will return in October with a proposed admin update based on what is said. Also, if there's additional feedback, you can always email us directly too, following that. So the first thing is there have been several requests to rename the Citizens Advisory Committee to the Community Advisory Committee to better reflect the committee purpose and representing everyone regardless of citizenship. That's the first item. The second one is kind of a larger question, which is related to committee membership and addressing kind of the longstanding vacancies. So as it stands, we currently have at least 6 vacancies where the organizations are unable to send us a representative. Luckily, we do have some new ones. Thank you for attending. However, there's a number that are detailed in the packet that cannot make it. And so the question is, do we want to try to find some new organizations to fill that? Or do we want to just reduce the number overall? The measure does not specify. We did do a little bit of research. I did some research just on other transportation authorities, other similar groups, what sort of groups are here, what are represented. I mean, basically it's business and economic development, education and youth. That's something that's not really represented a lot on this committee. Community and social service, we have some, and environmental and conservation organizations, we do have some of that. So basically staff welcomes discussion on how to best address those vacancies. And if you would like to add more organizations, do you have a direction or any specific one? So I'd like to open that up for discussion.
So the first item is to approve changing the name of the committee. Do we need to make a vote on this?
This is informational for discussion at this point. And one thing I should add is just the process here is we'll bring it back to this committee for approval, then it'll go to the board. They'll see it once and then they'll approve it again. Unfortunately, just the way the timing works, we're looking at December.
Okay, I'll open it for discussion, you know.
Well, certainly it's rational to change the name to Community Advisory, right? I think that is a worthwhile suggestion.
That is following several other organizations. I think Tom brought it up initially to our attention.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the change.
You know, I'll start the discussion. I looked at the roster and I saw, you know, many organizations, they did not have anyone, you know, to be at the committee here or the group. And I saw some organization, they attended a meeting, then they disappeared. So what I think, you know, for the quorum purposes, you know, the vacant, you know, slots, we will not consider it for the quorum. And you know, what I think also, we should have a minimum.
So currently that is supposed to be 3 unexplained, unexcused absences basically will generate an official vacancy. But like we did right now, I'm just going down the line and you know, looking for non-attendance, and that becomes a vacancy for quorum purposes. So we are doing that to some
But what I
extent.
meant, you know, for the quorum purposes, you know, like if an organization, like they attended just a meeting and they disappeared, you know, do we take them into consideration for the quorum purposes? Because in the past, you know, we could not have a quorum for many meetings, you know, because of that, you know.
Yeah, we can certainly change that as opposed to that a vacancy would be triggered regardless of notification, you know, and that it's like absence is an absence and 3, that's that. But I mean, I just think there's a bit of a larger, I think there's an opportunity here too. Just because many of these that I've talked to are, you know, they'd like to attend, they just don't have the people. And I think in the spirit of kind of the overall measure, we just want to it's a chance to look at kind of the representation as well.
I look, for example, I will not pick on this organization, the North Bay Organizing Project. They did not attend any meeting, but they have excuses for 5 meetings. They're not to attend. The
Can
question.
I speak to that? Okay, I'm the representative and it's hard for me to get up there. So one of the things I've been doing is participating as a member of the public by Zoom because of the restrictions of the current Brown Act. But nevertheless, I am attending every meeting and giving feedback to the organization. So you'll see an asterisk usually in my spot there.
We do have
Yeah,
those.
but my point, not to take, your organization when we have the quorum, I understand you cannot attend the meeting, but it is unfair for the group, to include, your organization in the quorum requirements,
Ah, I see.
Okay, I'll open it to others.
I'm fine with the name change. To me, it seems that if there's organizations that just aren't able to represent, that we just take them off. I don't have any brilliant suggestions for other organizations to add, except when you listed those sort of broad categories, it does seem kind of strange that we don't have something based on, school, education, kids, families, whatever, because that's, those are folks who have transportation needs, who have very little power in, making decisions about them. So having someone representing them would seem important, although I don't, I'm so out of that realm that I don't really know who those organizations or individuals would be.
Yeah.
Sorry. Name change is great. I think that's cool. And just along the lines, I also sit on the library advisory board and they have like 2 youth representatives and they actually like outreach to the different high schools and things. And often students are wanting this experience. They can count them as volunteer hours and it also looks great in comp. So there is often a way to do that and you can get in where students have 2 or 3 years that they actually like to sit on the board. And I think it's not just about having an adult representing them, but actually getting them involved in the process and sharing their experiences is really important. So I would definitely think that could be a great addition to it. Oh, and then I guess I'm just curious, with the folks that aren't able to send someone, like, is there a way just to change that says that we could still add new organizations later on if they can find someone and or really promote it? Like someone can still join in through the public and still have their organization or voice heard, but then it doesn't affect the quorum aspect of this.
That we could certainly do that. Yeah.
Mark?
Along the lines of education, I would recommend and I would assist you in reaching out to Dr. Amy Carter at Sonoma County Office of Education. I think it would be prudent for someone on her staff to be here from the educational piece, and or Eli Weinsvig from Career Technical Education Foundation, where I'm past chair of the board, so I could help shepherd a conversation there as well.
Excellent.
Also, I'm in favor of the name change. It's fine.
Yeah, I support all these comments from my colleagues. I think that if we do have a process for taking people off the existing list, we should also have a process to encourage our board members to recruit new groups to come on. And that's one of the great strengths of SCTCA is it's broadly representative throughout the whole county. And so I think historically having this fixed list has actually kind of restricted our outreach as a board, as an advisory board. It'd be better if there were open enrollment for new groups to come in and get involved. 2 cents.
I think just to weigh in briefly, it's just been the process of the administrative code, and we can talk to legal a little bit and see what the restrictions are. I'm honestly not sure how that would work.
Can you look in a process how we can add, future members and, probably vote on them here, then send them to the board,
Yeah, if there's any way we could speed up
Yeah.
the change process, that would make this all a lot easier.
Agree on the name change. Echoing Stephanie's point, if we look at students, also look at the JC because a lot of those kids do use transit. So that's it.
I had a couple other things pop into my mind. One, since transportation and housing are so intertwined, someone from representing a housing agency like I don't know, Generation Housing or one of those groups. But and then the other thing is I don't think we have anybody representing the disability community.
And-
And that would be
I will, we run into the same issue. I know Gina Erickson attends. We do have an in-person TPCC member who was voted in by the group who is planning to start attending. So we're
Okay.
hoping to get a little more representation there as opposed to, we appreciate Gina attending, but she does attend as a member of the public. And that is the unfortunate Brown Act thing, especially for that community.
So Russ, for the sake of keeping us on time, would you summarize, something for the next meeting? Like a certain proposal to vote on, to send to the board,
Yeah, so I'll return with an item to vote on, which will have the name change. And then basically I'm gonna do some research on if there's a way to make that roster change a little more fluid and a little more possible, as well as do some outreach to specific organizations. And then maybe come up with some new language about completely removing totally vacant memberships.
Thank you.
That's my plan. Okay.
Do we have online anybody to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering about a lot of organizations are now kind of rethinking their quorums since COVID. And I think it was mentioned that you might be talking to legal about that, but I think it'd be kind of a good idea that, especially being a transportation organization, that we figure out how members can attend and still be able to vote online.
Unfortunately, that's going to be something we'll have to take up with the governor. That's
Yeah.
unfortunately, those are state restrictions. And we are following a couple potential bills, but I don't see anything unfortunately happening too quickly on that. But thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have other questions online? Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 4.2, the Airport Boulevard project. David, or you will do it?
I will do it today. Good afternoon, committee members. I'm standing in for David, who is at a conference. So I'll just give you a brief update, and then we've invited the project sponsor, this Sonoma County PI, to be here, and Hunter McLaughlin is here to answer questions after I give a summary. So in November of last year, the board approved an amendment to the existing Go Sonoma strategic implementation plan, clarifying how changes can be made to projects after they are approved for programming. And so the County of Sonoma was awarded $4.5 million in Go Sonoma Move Transportation Improve Safety funding for the Airport Boulevard widening project for the intersection of North Laughlin Road, Skylane Boulevard, and Ordnance Road, which is also a project in Measure M. And the original project scope included constructing improvements at the intersection of North Laughlin Road and Skylane Boulevard and Airport Boulevard with either a roundabout or a signalized intersection. Widening of Airport Boulevard between North Laughlin and Skylane Boulevard and Ordnance Road to 4 lanes, 4 11-foot travel lanes and 1 12-foot two-way turn lane, and 2 6-foot class 2 bike lanes, consisting of 2-foot gutters and 4-foot paved shoulder, and completing sidewalk gap closures. And subsequently, the county was able to obtain an intersection control evaluation study, otherwise known as an ICE report. And that revealed that the expected future traffic volumes at Airport Boulevard from Ordnance Road to North Laughlin Road would not require 2 travel lanes in each direction. So in light of the results of the ICE study, Sonoma County Public Infrastructure has requested a change in scope for the project to remove widening of Airport Boulevard between Ordnance and North Laughlin. The county still plans on improving the segment by completing gaps in complete street elements and improvements at the intersection of Ordnance Road in coordination with the airport land improvement project. So staff has reviewed this request for consistency with the Go Sonoma Strategic Implementation Plan policy and support the proposed major scope change. With that, we are seeking the committee's review and comments. And as I said, we have Hunter here to answer any questions about the specific project in case you have any.
Thank you. Do we need to have a vote on this also? No.
No, we're simply soliciting comments.
So any questions?
Well, comments really, yay, on reducing the number of lanes, and I'm hoping that that will allow for making the bike lane a class 3. Right? Or
I didn't see that in
otherwise,
here.
something other than, because if you got that gutter pan the 4 feet, it's really 4 feet. You can call it 6 feet, but it's really 4 feet when you got that gutter.
I'm gonna let.
You're gonna let him address that one, yeah, and yes, on roundabouts at that intersection.
Okay. I'm just gonna trade places with Hunter so that he can answer your question. But we are accepting the comments and we will summarize those when we present this to the board. Thank you.
So yeah, with the reduction of the lanes, we will look at it and see what we can do to maximize the bike lane for sure. I know there's some restrictions given the flow of the road and the different slopes, but we will definitely try to maximize the bicycle lanes, prioritize those.
What about protection of the bike lane?
Yeah, we're looking at a buffer as well. Yeah.
A buffer?
What kind of
Which would just
buffer?
be paint?
Protective paint, or what is it?
It will be, yes, paint
Like
is.
tactical paint?
Huh?
It's just paint, flat
okay,
paint.
It's thermoplastic.
Okay. I too support the road diet, well, it's not even there yet, the sound planning policy on this. I think that's to be commended. What caught my attention though was that this doesn't appear to have any cost savings, which just intuitively to me says we were going to have a 4-lane road, now we're not, and yet it's going to cost the same amount. So I know Musa has certain cost sensitivities as well. I did notice in here talk about, in addition, there would be a significant portion of the shoulder on the north side of airport is designated as a staging area for emergency personnel for the airport as part of the design. We'll need to incorporate being able to accommodate these vehicles on the shoulder. Is that does that partially explain it, or is there some other, like especially at the north end, the closer end to the airport, is there some additional work being done that was not originally contemplated in the original scope?
Yes, so there is some additional work. So we coordinated with the airport and they have some plans that they're implementing in the next year or two. That includes adding a right turn lane onto Ordnance Road because they're going to do a development on that side. And so that's going to be some additional costs, as well as what you had mentioned, dealing with the staging area for emergency vehicles, kind of implementing that, as well as some of their costs. We hadn't anticipated a lot of, some of the complete street elements, such as sidewalk and all of that. So implementing all of that is what is accounting for reduce in.
I guess our responsibility on this committee, though, is to be sure that this isn't Measure M offsetting costs that would otherwise have been attributed to perhaps the project developer of that ordinance project. So you're assuring us today that that's not the case?
No, yeah, it's what?
No, yeah, that was
What?
clear.
Yeah, in fact, Tom, you asked a question I want to ask, Did you figure out if there is a saving or not, because of this scope change?
At this point, we are waiting for, we don't have like a fully developed estimate for the project. So at this point, we're keeping the estimate the same that for what we requested until we have like a fully developed estimate from the consultant that we're using. We don't have any solid numbers to kind of fully kind of get a better honed in estimate for the project.
Got it. But personally, I would like to see, that estimate, because when you reduce, the width to 2 lanes from 4 lanes, there is some savings, and the original funding was based on, a certain design, and now it is a different design. With approving, that new design, there need to be an estimate if there's a saving or extra cost, like for the new design itself.
Right, so the road is being widened for parking and for the bike lane. So there is still a widening, it's just not for a travel lane as well. So there is some of that widening work that's happening. It's just for complete street elements and for parking.
I guess I respect staff's recommendation here. I just, I think it would be helpful to your case in front of the board to detail those changes that are written here narratively a little bit more so that everyone has confidence that what I'm worried about isn't happening. And if you do that before it goes to the board, I think there's a higher likelihood that it will be supported.
You have a question?
So the roundabout is going to have, it's going to be a roundabout, correct?
Correct.
And I see in the graphic we got, there's a slip lane in westbound to northbound, only in that direction. And did this intersection study result in that being part of the roundabout?
Yeah, the study included that and it resulted in the addition of that right turn slip lane.
So putting in slip lanes like that, there's less of a need to slow down compared to other entrances and exits from a roundabout. So my comment is on safety for pedestrians and cyclists, and that I would encourage the county to have a well-defined route for cyclists and pedestrians, as in at road crossings, there's zebra stripes for peds and green paint or whatever for cyclists at all entrance exit crossings, and not merely putting sharrows in the circle, that if you're a cyclist, you go here. And that way motorists know this is where I'm going to see a cyclist if there is one, or a pedestrian.
We can look into different elements that can be included.
It's more of I know there's some websites out there, it's like Dutch roundabout design or Dutch cycling design, and they show really good examples of that kind of structure.
Okay, thank you.
So excited about this because I've worked on this street for a long time. You're in the PI building? You're in the American Ag Credit building? Is that where your office is now? Have you ridden your bike from there to the airport?
From there to the airport, I have not.
3 minutes, very quick. I've done it many times. I'm going to speak here. I've done it many, many times. And I used to send videos to the then county supervisor, Mike McGuire at the time, about how awful that road was for cyclists trying to get to work. We now have the county buying not just one, but I think you're also renting 2 more buildings, the old Medtronic buildings on this street. And we've also got SCO on that right there, who safe routes to school. We don't have a protected bike lane. It's protected by thermoplastic, which is not effective. We have a slip lane. I really want us to recognize what's happening here is the station area plan, the airport plan. There's 2 schools there now, Inova, Sonoma Country Day. There's going to be a lot of traffic going up and down there. People want to walk. I see them walking on the shoulder. I see them walking in the grass. we really have a chance to invest and make that bicycle and ped friendly. Thermoplastic does not protect kids on their way to school. I really, really want us to look at this carefully because I'm so glad we're not doing 4 lanes, but with the extra, let's do it right, because that's gonna build out. We have a monstrosity of an overpass over 101. There's so much space there. People drive so fast. We've got to slow them down. And I think it'll help in the long run. So those are my comments, but if you bring your bike to work, I will meet you because I live in Windsor and I'll meet you there, okay? So thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions online? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. I'll vacate for Brenton and then come back for
Okay,
more items.
the Measure M financials.
Hello, everyone. Let's see. All right, thank you very much. So this is our monthly Measure M and Go Sonoma financial update. Just to note that we've had several staffing issues in the financial section. And so the balance sheets and cash flow reports are ready, but I didn't have them ready in time for the packet. So I'll email those to the committee probably tomorrow. I'm trying to come up with a new format that makes them a little more readable, and I didn't have it ready in time for today. There's also included the Measure M sales tax revenue audited report. And this is the report we talked about last meeting that compares the yearly totals of all of the programs, revenues. And let me just share this for a second, Dawn, if I can. Unless maybe it'll just let me share. Let's see. Oh yeah, send request. Okay. Here we go. So this was the file that was sent out, and it shows the first month of Go Sonoma dollars received here, the $2.5 million. And as you can see, the total program revenues for the year were down 1% from the prior year. And I spoke on the phone with a Mr. Harris. Is here. That's you, Mr. Harris, who had some questions about the cash basis versus audited financial column on here. And I told him that the difference between those is generally related to the accrual or the cash basis. And so it's the difference of the final 2 months of the year. And that does hold true for the last 10 years, but the 10 years before that had some number of kind of significant changes that aren't being repeated in the current 10 years. And because of the way our financial system works, they require more research to figure out why those changes were there. So I've reached out to our contacts at the Auditor Controller's Office, and I'll try to get you an answer on those.
And I've done some analysis here that we can talk about.
Okay. Let's see. I'll stop sharing there. We'll go back to Measure M. And this will be a short report because there has not been a lot of action in the programs for the first 2 months of the year. Revenues for Measure M, $0 as expected. We should see ongoing interest revenues quarterly, but no more sales taxes for Measure M. And the expenses for July and August were just under $75,000. And as you see, Measure M is sitting on a large cash balance still of $78.7 million. No revenues. And the expenses.
Can you go back to the previous slide, please? These are committed $78 million for funding, or do we have extra?
I don't believe it's all committed. That's more of a question for David, but not all of the funds have been appropriated. So Highway 101 and local street projects are both carrying large fund balances, but I don't believe it's all been programmed yet.
Okay, thank you.
And so the expenses for Measure M, pretty much primarily staff time and leasing costs. I would expect those to go up over the course of the year, but for now, low transaction volume. For Go Sonoma revenues, $0. I'll talk about that on the next slide. And the expenses were $51,780, also low. And the cash balance in Go Sonoma is now $8,165,000. So as we see here on this slide, the taxes received in July and August, which were 24-25 revenues, were $5,426,000. And those are down about 2% from what we received these 2 months of the prior year. Last year, these were Measure M taxes. This year, they're Go Sonoma taxes. And we haven't earned anything. The first earned dollars for this year, we've received them by now, but they weren't received in time for the August period of this report. There we go. So we received the 5.426 million in revenues, but those were 24-25 Go Sonoma dollars. And then pretty much the extent of the Go Sonoma costs were staff time at this point. Although I should expect not for the next report, but probably for the month after that, we'll see the start of our Go Sonoma roads and Go Sonoma transit expenses. Those are the pass-through funds for street repair, the replacements for those programs. And so those will be large expenses. All right, and that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I just have a quick clarification. When we're reporting on, like, say, August revenues, is that transaction occurring in August, or do they actually occur in July and then they go to you by August?
If I was going to report it here, the transaction would have occurred in August.
The sales tax?
Yeah,
Okay,
well, so the sales taxes that we receive in August were earned in June.
That's what I thought. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Do we? No. Thank you. Item 4.4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next two items are pretty quick. They're mostly informational items. I just wanted to give you a brief summary and then you can ask any questions. The first one is the status of the Measure M reporting letters. As you know, this committee has oversight over the tax measures. So we always bring you the status of the annual reporting letters that are required to be submitted by each of the Go Sonoma and or Measure M recipients. This year, there were only 2 Go Sonoma recipients because we advanced some of the funding as part of the Cycle 1 SCTCA funding program from Go Sonoma through a loan from Measure M. So there were 2 recipients. One was Petaluma Transit expansion, and one was the city of Cotati had a project in Build Bikeways and Pathways. And the rest of the recipients, this was the last year for their reporting letters for Measure M for the apportionment programs. That would be the transit program and the local streets and roads program. So everybody reported on time except for one agency. Sonoma County Transit was late, but they did submit their letter a couple days later. So I think there might have been one other recipient that was late. Yes, the Cotati, but that was just due to administrative oversight. They knew they had it and I thought I had it and I didn't have it. So, but we have all of the letters now. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that process if you have any.
Any comments or questions? Okay, go next, please.
The next item is the quarterly reporting. So this is something that we do with the Go Sonoma recipients now instead of, well, I'm going to back up. For Measure M, the annual report contained a project information sheet for each project that received funding. But that is a static document. As soon as you print it, then it's out of date. So what we're trying to do is have project sponsors have quarterly reporting so that the reporting is a little bit more dynamic. So each of those reporting elements are included to the Technical Advisory Committee for review to make sure that we have accuracy, and then we provide them to you for oversight, and then we provide them to the board. We will be providing them to the board in November, since we weren't able to collect comments from the two committees until this month. So we couldn't get it in time because board meeting is early in October. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions. You will not be seeing project information sheets in the annual reports anymore because we are doing this more dynamic reporting.
Any comments or questions? Thank you for making
Sean,
us.
I have one.
You have?
The report that's in here for the airport project widening refers to the existing approved plan, not the new plan that's been requested.
So there are two different versions of the Airport Boulevard reporting.
Okay.
The one that was included with the staff report is the previous one prior to this request. I believe the schedule for the newly requested change is included in the most recent that is in the packet with the rest of the reporting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a little confused by that.
Any other questions, comments online? Do we have any comments? Okay, thank you, Shana.
Thank you very much.
Now, any announcements?
Today's the first day of the National Week Without Driving, an event that was started in 2021 by a disability rights group up in Washington State to get public officials to try a week without driving and see what these folks, the 30% of the population who can't drive for disability, age, whatever, to see what that is like. And 2 years later, America Walks got involved with them. So now it's a national event. We had a little kickoff event this last weekend. We have a number of our local elected officials who have all pledged to participate, although they're pretty much all the ones who already do it or already bike anyway, but still. I'm encouraging folks to think about that. If if you normally drive, to think about other ways to get somewhere. And we're trying to collect stories about that from folks to share what are the barriers that people face when they try to get around without a car.
Thank you. Any other announcements? I see none. Meeting adjourned. We finished early.